Nigga, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You got to be fucking kidding me. Last week I told a story and I decided to let it stand, but there was something else that I really wanted to talk about. And it's still sitting with me, so I wanted to finish but lose the Valentine's Day reference because really it's bigger than that. It's about a big, in some ways, global cultural movement that's happening right now. It's something deeper. And as I mentioned last week, we are now in season 2, and this season is about the survival diaries. And it's a season about survival in general. And I want to talk about what it feels like when survival turns into intolerance, which is what has happened to me and maybe you as well. So I wanted to kind of analyze this because with the Epstein files coming out, and I don't know about y'all, but I just feel a sense of anger. A lot of us do, that there is literally no accountability. No one is getting arrested. There are no pictures and images coming out of the news of these men who did these horrifically disgusting things to children being carted off in handcuffs. It's just not happening. And the fact that our president, the sitting president of the United States of America, is mentioned in there, 38,000 times? It's so disgusting. As a survivor of a pedo myself, it's triggering. This is frustrating, just as hell. But with the current political climate in general, I keep seeing all of these images, messages. I read a lot on Substack and I'm on Instagram, and I kind of follow a lot of kind of like political content on Instagram and other places, and just seeing more and more about a few things: women being full of rage, women being at our limit with what is happening and how men have essentially fucked this all up for us, but also about the matriarchy and the importance of returning to the matriarchy. I saw something really interesting, and I'll find it if I can and post it here, but I can tell you what it said. Basically, it said men are afraid of the matriarchy because they're afraid that we will do what they did, which is basically just use their power to lord over everyone and don't care if it hurts women, children, the earth, or anything. Men will basically burn it all to the ground so that they can have power, whereas the matriarchy is actually, instead of centering power, it's centering children and family and our natural urge to protect and nurture both children, men, even other women, and the planet. It just was so interesting to me. And I just keep seeing more and more and more about how much we as a global community need to return to the matriarchy. Of course, there are some little pockets of, human evolution in random places all over the earth where women have been, where there are matriarchal led societies that are thriving, but there are so few, not enough. I saw one a couple weeks ago, a meme that really stuck out to me, and it said, women think they're sad, but they're actually just furious. And I was just like, wow, if that does not sum up the way I feel about all of this, but including cishet men, I don't know what does. I think that men think that women are being suddenly dramatic. We're not being suddenly dramatic. I think we are metabolizing centuries of dismissal and abuse, and we're tired and angry. And it seems like women are, this is true for me as well. It's not just political anger that's staying political. It's seeing that our survival is political. It's not actually political. It's becoming personal in a more distinct way. But before we get into all of that, let me tell you where you're at. You're listening to the Out Here Trying to Survive podcast, season 2, The Survival Diaries. This is a storytelling podcast about how Black women survive, heal, and reimagine life in a world hell-bent on breaking us. Welcome to season 2, episode 43. But first, let me tell y'all a story. A few months ago, like several months ago now, I met a guy online. He slid in the DMs. We started talking. I know him to be still a genuinely good guy. We had quite a bit of shared values, and I let him know that I really wasn't in the season of wanting to date and really go there. And so it was like, hey, let's just be friends. I'm totally cool with just being friends and getting to know each other better. And as we got to know each other better, it became clear to me that it wasn't a match for a reason I really don't want to get into. It wasn't because we weren't aligned on a lot of things, politically, sociopolitically. I did enjoy the way he thought about life and, religion and just things in general. But once I realized this is really not a good fit, I told him that, and we decided to just be friends. So we have been friends, and we've never met in person because he lives in a different state. So we just been friends on Facebook and Instagram like that. A couple of months ago, I posted something about how I went to a strip club and I said something just on Instagram, my Instagram stories, just kind of randomly off the cuff about how when I was at the strip club, I was just thinking like, if men weren't here, this would be so perfect. Like I would love to have like an all women strip club where women are the owners, they're the waitresses, they're the bartenders, they're the strippers, women are the patrons, like just an environment that's accomplishing the same thing, but like void of men. And I'm saying this as a straight as an arrow, strictly diggly, heterosexual woman. I just think it'd be really fun to have an environment without men at all. And I stand on it. And I said something like, everywhere men are, they just ruin it. Like they just fucking ruin it somehow. And in some ways I was just ranting online like I usually do on my Instagram stories. I just be talking all kinds of shit. But I was also talking about the collective. Like whenever I talk about men and women issues, especially men and their toxicity and their destructiveness and their penchant on ruining everything, I mean as a collective. I'm very rarely talking about one specific man unless it's the orange demon. Unless we talk about the one who looked like this microphone pop filter right here. And all of his little cronies and thugs. I'm generally talking about the collective. That, of course, leaves room for the men who I believe are good men. The men in my life personally who've never harmed me. The men in my life who I have wonderful platonic friendships with because I do. The men in my life who I've actually been with romantically and we're still friends. The men in my life who I've been with sexually and we're still friends. I have men in my life who I legitimately love as people and I care about them. And if they were to leave this earth, I would be sad. Okay, because people just been want to be like, you a man hater. How can I be a man hater and I love so many of y'all? Like, tell me that. But I was really just talking my shit on Instagram. So he responded back,
I have to disagree. Environments can be made better if stupid people are removed. And trust me, there's lots of stupid women.
Nigga, read the room. Ain't nobody talking about that right now. So I just came back kind of lighthearted and I was like, LMAO, I believe you. I know that they're stupid women. But at the same time, all women's spaces are really lovely. And I have never not enjoyed an all women space. I've literally never been anywhere that's just for women and not enjoyed it. There's nothing that women have done to ruin an all women space. That makes sense. And then I said this, I hate that good men get a bad rap by all the bad men, but it's just true. All women's spaces tend to be safer and more life-giving, and I truly would enjoy a strip club if it were only women there, but that's probably not going to happen, LOL. So then he was like,
well, yeah, as a good guy who's really tired of getting lumped in with the assholes that women have chosen to engage with and then get upset because they chose to engage with said assholes, I just think that humans tend to romanticize ideas of ideal groups of people or ideal spaces. For example, I'm a good guy, so I'm not going to hang around most dudes because I don't like to hang around with assholes. I just never dig generalizations, and I don't think it's intellectually becoming of a person who is intelligent as you are. And as a person who has been the go-to for a lot of women, I find that has to do a lot more with intelligence and level of consciousness than it does with gender.
Nigga, you gotta be fucking kidding me. You got to be fucking kidding me. No. So I was just like, I'm gonna come back to this. So I took a minute because first of all, my nigga. No, horrible people does not have to do with intelligence level and conscious more than it does with gender when we know that men are the most violent thing this planet has ever experienced. I could go all day into statistics, but no, men are by far the most violent gender and it has nothing to do with, oh, look at humanity as a whole. It's just who's smarter and who has a higher level of consciousness. Bitch, no. But what really got me was that he said something about, I don't think it's intellectually becoming of a person who as intelligent as you. So I just said, I do think it's a little off-putting when I did come back later. For you to say it's not intellectually becoming of me, when women have been safe for me my whole life, all women's spaces have been safe for me, and that women have been the ones saving my life over and over and over again, while men have been the one ruining it over and over and over again. Not only does my personal experience confirm my opinion, but statistics do as well, because we know the most violent gender is men, and that women-dominated societies, even in the animal kingdom, are safer and more peaceful. None of this is rocket science. I didn't say anything about you. I'm just talking about stats and experiences, but you're okay coming from me personally, which is kind of weird and off-putting. Again, I've known this man to be really safe for, it's probably been 9 months that we've known each other, maybe 9 or 10 months. So then I went in a little bit. You can say all you want about how violence has more to do with intelligence and consciousness and all that other BS, but the statistical truth is that the gender of men have been violent as hell since the beginning of human history, and y'all stay killing us just behind Cancer and world disaster. Men are still women's apex predators, and until the biggest danger to my life isn't my father, my brother, my boyfriend, my fiance, or my husband, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and prefer all women's spaces. And I hate that you said it's intellectually unbecoming of me to articulate that, because it feels like an inherently violent thing to say to me, as if my views on this are weird or unfounded in any way, personally or statistically. And again, I was never talking about you personally, because I do think you're one of the good guys, a really good guy. I'm sorry, but that comment was really out of hand. Anyway, and then he came back and said, I'm
not coming for you personally.
Yes, you are. You literally did. But anyway.
But my experience has been that women have used me to be their safe space and then still chose to deal with assholes. So of course I'm not going to like generalizations.
I don't give a fuck. Honestly, I don't give a fuck that that's your experience, when you know statistically and globally and for all of human history that this is true. For him to say it was intellectually unbecoming of me, I was offended. And then our conversation goes on, and we did eventually work it out, and we are actually still friends. But I was just like, yeah, see, no, nope, I'm done. I'm done with that whole situation on a romantic way. Like, because here's the thing, and a lot of y'all probably feel this way, as if you're part of a marginalized community, no matter what that marginalized community is, you know that any sort of pushback on someone from a marginalized community saying how they feel about interacting with a different community who is not marginalized, the minute you start nitpicking how they talk about their pain or their experience, it's going to feel like gaslighting. It really is. And there's really no way around that. Like, okay, as an American, as a US born American, if I were to go overseas and I sat in a random restaurant and I overheard people talking about how bad and evil Americans are, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shut the fuck up. Because overseas, globally, America is occupying 178 countries currently or whatever. Like, we are a big, giant, narcissistic bully, and the rest hates the West. Okay. So I'm never going to gaslight someone else globally because I'm like, well, I'm a good American. I feel like I'm a good American. No, I'm just going to shut the fuck up and let them have their experience, because their experience probably since this country came about has probably been negative. So I'm going to go ahead and let them have it. Or any other marginalized community who is more marginalized than me, I'm not going to argue on behalf. Like, if a gay person or a trans person was like, well, straight people all are some assholes, I'm be like, I hear you. Even though I'm straight and I don't feel like I'm an asshole, but like, I'm not going to try to correct a marginalized community. And for a man to do that to a woman and say it's intellectually unbecoming, my whole point is, y'all, it just really got me like, this is why I'm single. This is why I would continue to be single. And I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with it, because if someone who I already align with sociopolitically, someone who claims to be an ally to women, someone like him who is a good quality gentleman, like I said, I don't want to get into the reasons why I didn't want it to move forward the first time we kind of tried. But if that's the experience that I'm having and my intolerance level is so low, and I do recognize there's part of me that probably will continue to need to heal in order to be able to ever deal with a man romantically in any sort of real way with depth. But what I took out of that scenario was just how fast that my brain was like, I'm done. And nowadays, when I'm interacting with a man who I feel like maybe could be potentially romantic in some way, as soon as I catch the funky little attitude problem or just whatever it could be, my brain is just like, you're done. It's crazy because I got married when I was 23 years old, and it took me 7 or 8 years of consistent microaggressions and consistent behavior that was unbecoming of him. And I'm not saying that he was the only one doing that. I was acting unbecoming too. We both were just immature little assholes to each other in hindsight. We just were too young and immature. But anyway, it took me 7 or 8 years before I was like, yeah, I can't deal with this no more. I can't deal with this anymore. It took a while. It took a while. And now it's instant. And the thing is, y'all, it's not that my ex-husband was a villain. He wasn't. And this guy who I was talking to recently, and his comment, it wasn't even a horrible, horrible thing to say. It was that I noticed that my tolerance level has changed so drastically, and it's because of the larger cultural movement we're in. And I'm wondering if anyone else is there. I think sometimes men just want to be like,
oh, who hurt you?
And just be dumb about it and like oversimplify it or make it seem like
you're just a man hater. You're just mad that no one chose you or
whatever, and it's like, no, it's not that, y'all. Like, if it was that, I would just tell y'all it's that. It's not that. I'm not angry at all at men for existing. It's deeper. It's a bigger issues. And part of it is right now, collective male silence. Where are the men who are angry about what's happening in the Epstein files? Where are the men who are angry that children are being abducted off the street? Where are the men who are angry that a bunch of little girls were raped? Where are the men who were angry about alligator Alcatraz? Where are the men? I'm kind of chronically online. I'm probably addicted to my phone. I'm on TikTok quite a bit. I'm on Instagram quite a bit. And I just saw a bunch of women all the time and still see a bunch of women posting, sharing a lot of women-led accounts about what's going on in our country. The fact that there are more people in detention centers now than there were in Nazi Germany. Like, why is it majority women still? Just a question. It feels like there's a lack of urgency around harm, and there's this whole big giant lie that women have been told our whole life that men are protectors. No, they're not. They're not. They're actually our apex predators. And on top of all that, it's women who are trying really hard to protect all these little vulnerable children and families who are being abducted by the US government right now. It's women who are doing a whole lot of organizing. Not that there aren't any men participating, but it's also the men out here, primarily probably 99% of the ICE agents right now are men. It's not all men, but it's always a man. It just feels like the burden of trying to explain the collective pain of what's happening right now falls to women. And that's what's really, really frustrating. And the exhaustion of the not all men conversation is also really exhausting. And I really wish that men could just be like,
you know what? Women are a marginalized community. They have been for all of known human history. Like, maybe we should just listen to what the fuck they got to say. Maybe we could just once shut the fuck up.
And women are just collectively tired of the bullshit. I think a lot of us are just collectively tired of men not being good people. I think we are collectively tired of them being silent and not doing enough. And women, a lot of us, really don't want to date someone who's just more comfortable with her hiding her pain about all of this, or feeling like you're with someone who doesn't care at all when you do. It's just cringe. It's gross. It's like, why would I choose that? A lot of us women are looking for allyship. We want a man who is an ally to women. We do want a man who is some level of intersectional feminist. I mean, he ain't got to say he's a feminist, but like in your actions, bro, my brother in Christ, please be a feminist of some sort. Please be an ally of some variety. It's just very rare for me to meet a man who is a very loud advocate on behalf of women, particularly one who really, really loves Black women loudly. And for me, as a single woman who's going to be 50 this year, meeting a man in my age range who is loudly single first and loudly loving and being an ally for Black women is really, really rare. So if I say to myself, like, that's all I want, that's all I'm willing to date, I'm really cutting the dating pool down to like a very minuscule amount, because I want alignment. Of course I want alignment. And as someone who is a very loud advocate and a very loud ally for marginalized communities, there is no way for me to minimize myself so that I can be with a man who is neutral about kids being detained, neutral about women getting shot in their face for no reason, neutral about industrialized slavery via the prison system. No. I can't. I personally cannot deny myself in that way and who I am in that way. I can't. And again, it's not that these men who are neutral or who just haven't said much or maybe aren't educated as much, or I'm not sure, maybe they're just lost in their own world or their own issues. I'm not saying that those men are evil necessarily. It's that they're not aligned with a large number of women in 2026 who genuinely care about what's going on around us. And for me, alignment matters more than attraction, period. That's the grown Grace part of me, because if you ain't got something to say, my brother in Christ, please keep stepping. Please, and I say this all in Christian love, get the fuck out my face, please. And let me tell y'all, the conditioning is strong. Sometimes I'm like, girl, if you keep being such a man hater and you keep like saying you don't want no man who ain't this and who ain't that, like, you're gonna end up alone. You're being too rigid. And then there's part of me that's like, Grace, that is the whole point. You don't even want to be married. You don't even want to have a boyfriend. You do want to end up alone. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. And then, like, a few days will go by and I'll say something or post something. And then I'll be like, girl, you taking yourself out the dating pool. No man is going to want. And then I'll be like, please silence yourself. I know I'm taking myself out of the dating pool. I know that I'm doing that. I don't even want to be in the dating pool. And that is really okay. It's so crazy because, like, we have been so conditioned. As I'm a Gen Xer, right? I'm going to be 50 this year. I've been so conditioned that the entire point of my life is to go forth and be married and make children. And I have went forth and I was married twice and I have made 3 children. And I feel like that part of my life is kind of done and I'm really okay with it. And I'm still in my head fighting with the fucking conditioning, still fucking fighting with the conditioning and having to be like, it's okay if these men are like,
wow, she's to this or to that.
It's okay. Because you know what, sis, for anybody else who's on the same level as me, same track as me, we say eye to eye, there is a very big difference between isolation and intentional community. And what I'm looking for not necessarily is romantic love. What I'm looking for is friendship love that exists in many different ways, and love that exists in many different ways between me and my children, of course. So parental love. But I also value my girlfriends and my best friendships. That's really, really important to me in terms of like the love relationships that I'm making sure I'm a part of. I also want to be part of some other communities that I'm not a part of yet, just because of where I live and the weather. But I want to be part of like Black hikers groups and running groups and writers groups. And I don't know if I'll ever find myself in a church community ever again, but who knows? It would have to be a very, very, very specific kind of church community. But I also already have a lot of platonic male ally friendships, and I value those as well. And I just think there's so many places in the world, if you don't think that you can have community and love, big, exciting, wonderful love and a big life like outside of romantic love, I think you should think differently. I think because I've also someone who's had all of that kind of love in various ways the whole time. I mean, even back in high school, but in college and the whole time I was in failing marriages, I was always getting love from other communities. And so I feel like I have a vision for it. And I have that right now still. And so it's easy for me to just kind of check off romantic love as like, that's not something I really desire. Now, let me tell y'all this. I will say this. I am a very pro LOA. Okay. I'm very open to whatever God and the universe has for me. I'm never going to say, no, I'll never do that. No. So if someone comes along and he is a magical human, I'm not going to say, no, I'm closing myself off to romantic love. If someone who's a magical human, not in this year, I'm really not looking for that in 2026 for sure. But like in my future, I have a feeling, an inkling that maybe that could happen, maybe in my future, but I'm not who I want to be and where I want to be to even be ready for that right now. So I'll just kind of put that out there. I'm not closing it off, but I think I am saying it's okay to just check that box off and I can silence the conditioning. It's not about me hating men. It's not about me being bitter to men. It's just about me having a bigger vision. I have a big vision for this big life that I want, especially as my kids are getting older and they're less dependent on me. I mean, I still have a 9-year-old, so I've got a little while to go, but I'm kind of seeing the light at the end of the parenting tunnel, the mom life tunnel in some ways. And I'm like, wow, I am going to have so much more time. Honestly, like even as my daughter gets to her like teen years, you know, things will be a little different. And because my older 2 sons will be out of the house, well, Lord willing, they'll be out on their own thriving. But I'm starting to really think about, especially I think turning 50, it feels very monumental this year. And what do I really want for my life? And when I think about romance, that's just not even in the top 10. I mean, I literally have learned a second language before I have a boyfriend again. This is not just me, by the way. Have y'all ever heard of the 4B movement in South Korea where these women are out here like, we ain't marrying y'all, we ain't fucking y'all, and we ain't having y'all babies? Y'all heard of that? Because they're so sick of the treatment towards women. That's moving here, by the way. There are women literally in the United States and Canada, maybe Mexico too. I haven't heard nothing about that, but there are women who are literally saying, we refuse to have babies. Not in this political climate, not in this economy. There are women who are leaving their MAGA husbands because of the fuckery. There was an article recently that went viral about how it's cringe to have a boyfriend nowadays. Women are seeing even having a boyfriend is cringe because it's like, what are you doing? Why would you give them your time, your life, your body, any of that? How do they deserve any of it? If you do any sort of online shopping, front page of the women's sweaters is one that says dump him. Like I said before, all these conversations about the matriarchy and women realizing that we need to take over in order for things to evolve and get better. Not just here in America, but globally. This isn't just a dating trend. This is really a kind of a collective nervous system switch. Women are not just mad. We are literally recalibrating our risk level. So yeah, for me, it's not like I'm swearing off men in some big dramatic way or something. It's more, I'm just responding to data, and the stats don't lie. They really don't. And particularly for aging women, the stats say that aging women my age, especially perimenopausal, menopausal women, are happier if we go through this stage single, which makes so much sense to me. And I really, really want to be strong and keep that promise to myself that I will remain single as I go through perimenopause, as I finish this up. Because I'm in my 8th year of perimenopause, I think. I think I started when I was 42. And if somebody extraordinary shows up, like I said, I would give them a chance. 2027 and on, I would give them a chance. But I'm just not auditioning for romance anymore like I have done in my previous years, which I'm now like, that's so fucking cringe. It's a beautiful thing for me to feel like my life feels really full right now without it. And it feels really beautiful and really precious and like really in some ways precarious, because every time I allow a man to kind of get into the little bit of the inside layer, I end up realizing that I'm not as full anymore. There's just always some level of pain associated, even if it's small. Maybe women aren't done with love. Maybe we're just done with trying to convince ourselves that we have to accept less than alignment. I'm not heartbroken in any way. I'm just clear. And before I go, are y'all watching Love is Blind season 10, Ohio? Talk about cringe. And I don't even really want to judge them, y'all, but like it is so cringy now. I think like I said, in this political climate and where we are at in general, it is hard to watch the show. And I've watched all 10 seasons. I love me a reality show, y'all. I love reality shows, especially love focused ones. I watch almost all of them. Especially Love Island, Too Hot Not to Handle, all that stuff. But this is the first time that I've ever watched it. And I just got through season 10, episode 6. Like I'm in episode 6 literally right now. And I just kept thinking like, Grace, don't judge them, because like if you were young and had never been married before and had this opportunity, I would have absolutely went on it. And I would absolutely be making the same choices that they are making. But I think now with hindsight and just being older, having been married twice, having all my kids, and now like looking at this whole situation, like there's no way that I would ever take the risk of allowing a cis het man into my life that I've met only for 6 or 7 days, or I think it might be 2 weeks. I'm not sure how long they get to talk behind the wall. There's no way that risk would be allowed, even given the statistics of how often men close to women often grape and unalive them, even knowing that has happened on that show with the cast of Love is Blind in previous seasons, and even knowing that even more than that, they have repeatedly had men on there who have major issues and they don't screen well. It's cringy and hard to watch these women be so excited about these men that they've only known for 8 or 9 days. They might have some sort of alignment, right? They might actually have like real attraction behind a wall. I fully believe you can fall in love with somebody that way, fully. But they don't know who they are and the danger they are to the rest of this world. And now in hindsight, knowing how many men I've met and known for a long time, only to find out later how dangerous they are to other people, how much they've hurt other people, other women in their lives, their mamas, their exes, etc. The rose-colored glasses are not on anymore. But anyway, I'm curious if y'all watching Love is Blind season 10, what are y'all thinking? It's just not as fun this year. This is the first season where I'm like, yeah, this is a real bummer. Watching this through this cultural lens is a real bummer. But anyway, finishing up the signature Out Here Trying to Survive journal. It's for those of us who want to heal and keep healing. I believe in the power of journaling. It is scientifically proven to help you heal. So I'm creating a journal that I'm sharing all of the prompt questions and things that I've used over the years to help me heal, both from a traumatic childhood, a couple of divorces, surviving domestic violence, an assault, losing my mom, and heading into perimenopause. All of that has messed with me, let's just say. So please check out my journal. Actually, it's not ready yet, but sign up for my Substack, which you can find here. I don't update it much, but I'm going to start. And definitely when the journal comes out, you'll be the first to hear about it. Also, don't forget I have a book, Grace, actually, on memoirs of love, faith, loss, and Black womanhood. This is some of my best blog posts and things I've written in the last 10 to 12 years now. I really need to update it, but it's still out there if you want to grab it. If you like the kind of stories I share here, you'll probably love the book as well. It's highly reviewed. Anyway, child, if you're still here, I know you could be anywhere on the internet. And so I thank you for giving your time to me and making it to the end. I appreciate y'all so much. Leave me a comment below. Oh, by the way, if you're not subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you're at, iHeart. If you're here on YouTube and you want the visuals, please subscribe. Make sure you like. Oh, and hype me up. Hype me up. Go right now and hype me up. That's a thing now. I didn't know you could do that, but now you can hype people up. So hype me up, y'all. And I'll see y'all on the next episode. Bye.